Hey Jess, I think I genuinely might be getting sick. I do not feel well, so this is going to be a quick live show. I did not want to reschedule it because I already rescheduled it yesterday. It's just been uh a rough week. July was just a rough month. That's what I'm telling. Yeah, man. I started feeling like really bad around like two something today. And my energy has been like super, super low, and all I want to do is sleep. And usually for me, that means that I'm probably about to get under the weather. And baby girl has been sneezing like nonstop for the past couple of days and sniffling and coughing. And so I'm like, I hate summer colds. They feel significantly worse than winter or fall colds. I don't know. I could be making that up, but they just feel worse. So we're going to go ahead and dive into this, y'all. And I hate to be so quick, but I know me, and I know that I need to take a shower and bundle up and get in my bed. But this month we read Us, which I'm hoping for y'all was significantly better than our last reading experience. I know Jess, you put in the Discord that it was a lot better. This was a reread for me, and it all came back to me when I started reading again because I read this last year. Um, and still enjoyed it just as much as I did the first time I read it. So let's start with ratings. I'm still going to stick with 4 stars. That's what I originally gave it. I still think it's 4 stars. Um, I just think that I love when graphic novels, right, are engaging and fun, but also provide like real world context, right? I think one of my biggest things about this is that it really drives home this idea that identity, specifically when talking about like gender orientation, sexual orientation, is so complex. And I think, especially now in the heat of like where the US is, I think a lot of people try to make conversations around those two topics very black and white. And it's not black and white, right? And I don't like I've never had the experience or characters I've had, like, having a partner come to you and say, like, hey, I'm like pretty sure like I'm trans and what that looks like and why we would want that to look like a perfect situation. I'm glad that they were so like the both of them were so realistic and how complicated that process was, not only for them like individually, but also them as a couple. Like that is probably one of my favorite parts of this graphic novel because it's beautiful, and I think that it is so well done, but it's also so real. And it provides people to like an insight of of their experience that we may not see in real time. You know what I'm saying? Especially if it's not your lived experience, like not knowing how those conversations would go, like the fear, the anxiety, and even in it being in a relationship where you have like two people who are very supportive of each other, it still is a major process, it's a major change. And so navigating those changes with each other, even with that love there, does produce its own set, I don't want to say issues, but complications, its own set of roadblocks. Yeah, also, yeah, from an international perspective, like I think that with a lot of things, especially because I think my mind is so focused on like what's happening with the trans community here in the United States. I do think it's very interesting reading this from a perspective where it was set in Spain. Like that brings a different level of processing it. Yes. And see, I wish like for me, I wish this was something that I was reading again for the first time. But I knew that because I had already read it last year, but I love that it was set in Pride colors. I think stylistically, I noticed it the first time, but something else I appreciated. Did y'all notice how they did not give specific features to those who were not very I don't wanna say like, people who came in with bad intentions, um, to their relationship and to their coming out process, like, how their face didn't it was very generic, and I read that, like, a couple of ways, like, one way it could be protecting someone's identity, but then also, we don't even wanna give that negativity any type of true space in this artwork, right? I think that you could look at it from both of those angles, and I don't think I saw that um, as much as I did this time. Like, I really honed in on this time, and I was like, "Wow, like, that you're not giving them any time of day really, right? Like, they're there because it is part of the larger narrative, but when it's all said and done, like, we're not gonna even take up our time giving them any type of almost humanity. When you really think about it, I think it was just a fascinating kind of like twist of interpretation in the sense that these same individuals couldn't recognize the humanity in them. And so, almost for me, whether intentional or not, part of that also felt like a clapback, as in, well, then I'm not going to show any humanity to you. You're going to look generic. You're going to look like a cutout, and I'm not gonna give you those human features that would make you an individual, a person. You know what I'm saying? Like, I thought just reading it this go around, I was like, "Okay, yeah, that's definitely something that I didn't pick up on from before." Um, I one of the other things that I picked up on, and this is I'm probably not even 100 pages in, um, the withholding the information to the grandparents, that made me emotional this time around, and I didn't. Y'all, I don't know. Okay, y'all let me know if you can hear me or not. And I don't think I can remove the other version of me. Yes, I can. Um, First of all, my laptop had an hour and some change on the battery and it just cut off. Listen, I can't, that's wild to me. That's never happened. And I specifically looked at the battery because I was like, I want to make sure that I have enough battery. It had over an hour on it. That has never, I don't know, but you know how laptops are. The batteries can get temperamental and they will definitely just stop. Okay. Well, I'm here. I was like, dang, that's unfortunate. I literally was like, what happened? Um, okay. What was I saying? Oh, I was talking about the specific scene with the grandparents. That was, I think, something not the one specific scene where they were talking about how she didn't tell her grandparents, some of her grandparents, because they were ailing. And I can't imagine how difficult that must have been to constantly be misgendered or constantly hear your dead name as a means to protect your grandparents because they're touch and go. I don't know. I remembered a little bit about them each coming out and communicating with family and friends. Like, I remembered a little bit of that, but I feel like that specific moment I didn't remember. And I was like, goodness gracious. I think the emotions behind it, the authenticity of all of this was just so good, y'all. It was really, really good. This is probably one of my top nonfiction graphic novels. I have a handful that I readily recommend, and there have been a lot that have come out in the past that deal specifically with gender identity, sexual orientation that I have really, really loved. And this one definitely, I think, is one of those that's pretty much that's up there. Um, because of how well done it is, and just the emotions that go into this, and then their willingness to showcase the not so perfect parts of it. Um, and I really appreciate it, like her having to, and I keep, because I don't remember names. Y'all know I don't remember names. I really appreciated how when Diane, there we go. Diana first was talking about being trans, and our other main character was like, "Yeah, I don't know if this is like something that I can do." And that to me was kind of like, okay, that's, that's like, you don't want to think that people have these certain things that run through their mind, but it is reality. And I'm glad that she was willing to put some of those moments, those not so perfect moments, on paper. Even talking about like the transition, like actually like physically transitioning, and how difficult that process is. And that recognizing that, I think we have this idea, and I say we, I mean in just general society, has this idea of transitioning as one thing, and then also not realizing that it literally can be a lifelong process, and it literally can be one of the most complicated things that you will ever do, and it's such a huge change. And that this is not something that people just do on a whim. Like, I think I get that and I understand that, but I think I have a hard time grasping or being in conversation with anyone who thinks that this is like a light, like this is just a random decision that someone make. Like, I don't know. That just, it doesn't it never sits well with me at all, or it doesn't sit well with me at all. But even the intricacies of going through a transition, I think were done very, very well. I can't even tell. Okay, you can't. Wait, hold on. Y'all, doing this on my phone is literally for the birds. And I don't know where my laptop charger is. And I could fire up the other charger, but then I'm like, what's the purpose? What exactly is the purpose of doing that? Okay, what were some of y'all's favorite aspects of this graphic novel? And what made you hesitate on giving it 5 stars? I think those are two good questions. I don't know if y'all can, I mean, I said you can hear me, but then I can't see anybody saying anything. That could just be my phone. Child, this is a mess. I can't believe my laptop did that to me. It's so aggravating. Are y'all commenting and I can't see comments? Oh, okay. Now I can see. I was like, can I not see? I read it too long ago, but I really like the art. Um, the art is really good. It is very cutesy. I can tell that they both are cartoonists. It's very much so done in a cartoon-esque kind of way, especially with like the big emotions. Um, Especially like with the eyes. They play with the eyes a lot, which I really, really enjoyed to kind of evoke emotion, but it definitely gives cartoonist vibes. I think one of my other favorite moments was the makeup scene. I I really like the makeup scene as well. I think that that's a moment where I think we stop. I think I think that's a scene where we get a lot of things, a lot of emotions kind of e- evoked there, right? Where there's this want or need to help your partner feel validated, but then also um, those moments where your partner is like, I don't think I look how I feel, right? And so, as someone who's never experienced body dysmorphia, and I love how they explain that, but not all trans individuals go through body dysmorphia, but then also providing a definition of body dysmorphia. Um, and I can't imagine how someone with body dysmorphia must feel, right? Um, I lost my train of thought. I can't imagine how somebody with body dysmorphia must feel, right? Like where um because there's this specific scene where Diana says, how did she phrase it? What did she say? She said, how is anyone, and I'm paraphrasing here because I can't remember it word for word. I think she said, how is anyone supposed to see me as a woman when I don't even see myself that way? Like that has got to be that's tough, right? It's I can only imagine what that feels like. Like your body is essentially like betraying you. And that's not something that I have ever experienced. And so that was I like that scene because once again, a lot of emotion, a lot of supportive partnership, but also um there's a lot of rawness to that, right? Like it's not as simple as like, okay, I'm gonna grow my hair out and put on like there's so much more that goes into that process. So I don't know, but I didn't love the book. It was really good. Yeah, I think for me too, Jess, it was one of those reads where um it was good, right? And usually when I read books that are good, like 4 stars is above average for me. Because 3 stars is an average book. Like it's a decent book, but it was a good read, but not anything that necessarily blew me away. But I still do think it is one that I would readily recommend because I think that this is one of those books that really taps into showing an experience to help people navigate building empathy. Because you could have certain assumptions or certain perspectives walking into a book like this, and actually seeing someone's personal journey in this way could help put things into perspective. Even the first time that I read it, right? Like I don't, like I said, I'm not trans. I don't know what that experience is like, but reading this, it kind of shed a light on how, like, the complexity um, of being trans and having to come out to your partner, coming out to friends and family, like the emotions that come into that, just navigating society. What does that mean? When you feel comfortable and then you have to deal with pushback from people, like it's putting you into the shoes of someone else's experience, which I think in this time, at least here in the US, like is super important. And I'm glad that there are nonfiction graphic novels that exist like this because people hear comics and graphic novels and they think there's nothing of substance to be gained from them, right? I think that superheroes have, and I don't want to say tainted, but they've become so much associated with graphic novels and comics that people don't see it as real literature. They don't feel as though they can gain anything. And there's lots to be gained, I think, too, from superhero comics, but it's so nice knowing, like, you know, when you dive deeper into this form of literature, knowing that there's content out there like this. And I think that that's just something for me that's super important, um, which is why I love nonfiction graphic novels. I like nonfiction prose as well, but I think nonfiction graphic novels scratch an itch sometimes that I don't always get from nonfiction prose related stuff. Y'all said it's a lot of, I don't know. Child, I like the book. I gave the book 4 stars. Like, what more do you want from me? um, I think too the conversations about the binary are always fascinating. I love anything that talks about binary, and I think I like a lot of that content too because of me raising a kid. And I don't think, I mean, I know, like it's one thing to know something, right? And then it's another to when you start to experience some things through the lens of a child, right? I know that society still, even in 2025, we live in a very binary based society, right? I know that. But hearing my child say certain things um, was very much so eye opening to me because it's the smallest things that you don't realize your child gets taught by the world and not by you, right? I was telling my child, you can, if you feel like dressing this way or you want to play with these toys, like, or you want to do this, it doesn't matter if you're a girl or a boy, but, like coming home and telling me, like, oh, those are boy colors. And I'm like, that's not something I teach. And you have to be like, it made me so aware of how much kids learn from their interactions in society, not always what how interactions go at home. Like I remember one time she asked me, I think because we were hanging out with another mom and her little, and the little one had his fingernails painted. And she asked me, she's like, can boys wear, nail polish? I'm like, absolutely. Like anyone who would like to wear nail polish can wear nail polish. So it's like it seems like it's small things, but I can see how we are socially constructed to believe in the binary at such a young age. And what's so unfortunate is that um if you don't correct it at home, you become socialized into thinking like that's just the norm. And I mean, like it's a lot of things that I've had to unlearn, to be quite honest with you, but I didn't realize how quickly it happened or happens until I had my kid. And I'm like, this starts so early. And it's so simplistic as like, what toys are you allowed to play with? How you play dress up, how you present yourself, how you even associate. I thought it was mind boggling to me when the association of colors, and we're talking like 3, 4 years old, and already she was being taught to associate colors with specific genders. And I was not expecting that. And so even their conversations within the framework of the graphic novel about the binary and why can't, you know, a person do this or do that, based on how that to me, I think too kind of hit home for me because I'm like, damn, like, yeah, we do live in a world that's very much so like that. And when you've been socialized to believe that it's a norm, you don't see it. But when you start to undo that learning, and especially being around children, you're like, dang, like it's amazing how you become socialized to believe or accept certain things as the truth at such a young age. And so I'm happy that I have been doing whatever I need to do on myself so that we can go ahead and stop her from, and some things it's harder to catch and some things I don't know unless they're said out loud. But So just she doesn't have to go through that process, as late as I had to go through that process. She one thought it was hilarious. Oh, that was because that grandmother was like, okay, but if there's no penis anymore, like, how are you? I was like, Grandma, no. And then they could like that was funny. That was funny because Grandma was like, I love this. I'm happy to support you both. But what are you gonna do about sex? And I was like, wait, what? And then right after that, the panel when she was I don't know if it was another family member where she was like, so is this going to be a boy or a girl? And the mom was like, whatever they choose. And the grandma was like, what a world we live in today. It was a good that was a good moment of humor. I do like that. That there were see that's another thing too that I think in terms of the writing that was good. Now that you bring that up, Jess, that like although we had these really, really hard moments, right? Um they balance it out where with moments of joy or happy moments. And so it wasn't so rooted in the trauma that they had experienced. And yes, they did put it out there because that's real to their lived experience. But I also did love those light moments, or those moments where I think I felt fear for them, especially when Diana had to come out to her grandfather who was on social media and stuff like that, and how she was so worried. And he was like, "You're my granddaughter." Like, even feeling that relief with them, which I think was it's great that they were able to evoke those emotions within a reader. So I remember me and postman and Kentucky to pick up the boy book. Yeah, yeah, and that's also something too that um is hard is that your kid will see parents interact with their kid, right? Even now, like like if she's at school or, she's at camp, there are parents that get there before I do. And so some of these things she's hearing or seeing because that's how that parent is choosing to raise their kid. And so it becomes questions in our house like, well, is it okay if blah, 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 blah? And it makes you think, well, what have you heard that would make you believe that it's not okay? So it's that is yeah, that those are impactful moments too, which is why I think it's so important, for those conversations also to be happening at home because you're not around your kid all the time. And that's the thing too that I've realized a lot over the years is that um I'm not in a given week unless it's like the holidays or something like that. I'm without my kid more than I'm with my kid because I'm at work, we get home, we only have 2-3 hours together before it's time for us to get ready for bed. And then we have the weekends, so you think like 5 days out of the week we're really only seeing each other for what, 3-4 hours within that day. So there's so much learning and picking up on behaviors that's happening when I'm not even present. I'm not even in the room. And that can be kind of scary when you think about it in the grand scheme of things. Yeah, stuff like that. Yeah, I think it's, I part of me would like to say, "Oh, it's different for these generations that are coming like after us," but part of me has a hard time believing that, especially because of the environment. I can only speak to like environment here in the US that I wish um different conversations were happening, but I feel like there's so many hate fueled conversations, so many reinforcement of barriers that I think so many people have worked hard to break down, to educate people, to share their experiences, and just some of the things that are being said about not some, like all of the things, all of the negative things that are being said about the trans community, like that is just I'm not trans, and it's hard to hear and see. And so while I would hope that we would be having more productive, more empathetic conversations, it seems like we're not getting that. And it makes me so heartbroken and so nervous for this part, like this generation of kids that are not being taught empathy, and this generation of kids who are working through their identities and are being taught essentially to hate who they are. That is scary. Um, because it's 2025 and it's like we're going backwards. And that's as a person who is cis, like that's terrifying for me. And so I can't imagine what it's like for the trans community. That's yeah, like that's the other like you're right. That's the other part of it is the representation is there. Um, I've seen more representation, especially like queer representation, in picture books than ever before. But it's like book banning it like is attempting to negate it. It's not there completely, you know what I'm saying? Um, and I hate to say this. I get so fearful of putting certain titles on blast, um, and would like privately recommend or recommend one on one than publicly recommend for fear of people knowing about it. Because I feel like a lot of like queer books, especially like queer picture books that get challenged, is word of mouth. These are books that people have never read, they've never heard of, and so it's like you don't want to put something on their radar, which sucks because that's not how it should be, and it should never be like that. Um, but I want those books so badly to stay accessible because kids need them. Um, People need them, and not just kids. People need them. They should have access to them. I'm gonna get it after listening. No, it definitely is. It's great. It is a great addition to any collection. Um, I highly recommend it. In terms of adding it to a collection, and diversifying your graphic novel collection, it is a great addition to it. Um, it is for me. It's up there with I don't know if y'all remember. I don't think it was last year. It might have been the year before last. We read How to Be Ace, or maybe it could have even been the year before that. We read How to Be Ace. It's up there. This one is up there for me with How to Be Ace. I Not me, not this thing doing this again. I think they would be great reads together in terms of nonfiction graphic novels. But yeah, I know, Jess. Yeah, it that I think about that often, love. I really do. Yes, it is a good balance in memoir and informational. Absolutely. Absolutely. All right, y'all. Well, we've been here for 30 minutes. Um, I think this definitely was one that was much better than the previous one, than last month. I can't remember what July. Hold on. I'm going to disappear from the screen for a second. Give me a second. Hold on. Because I can't remember. We're going to talk a little bit about, really quick before we go, August pick. We are doing Cat and Gamer Volume 1 and Volume 2. So, the end of next month, the last Wednesday of August, we're going to be doing Cat and Gamer volumes 1 and volume 2. And we're back on track again. Thank goodness. So we're there. But thank you. I'm about to take a hot shower and bundle up and be done for the day. Cause it's there. But I appreciate y'all joining. Yeah, the Marble Queen was terrible. I forgot that was the thing. I just knew that last one was horrible. I couldn't even remember what we read. It was horrible. It was that bad. I just erased it from my mind. But yeah, Cat and Gamer should be fun. Light month, just 2 volumes. Last Wednesday of August, we will pick that up. I will share any information if anything changes. And I will see y'all at the end of next month, all right? Have a good night.